There's been an awful lot of talk in the wrestling world lately about WWE Raw potentially moving back to a TV-14 rating, moving away from the PG rating WWE have maintained on their product since 2008, apart from that one episode of SmackDown in 2020 that was TV-14 for some reason. I guess that Sheamus vs Shorty G match was TV-14 worthy. Opinions seem really split about this decision to go back to TV-14. It's clearly a very divisive topic. Just look at some of the comments on our breaking news video when it was announced it was going to happen. It's great news. More, better promos, jokes, and cussing. We will also see some more entertaining and edgier segments. I think this will definitely help the product. The rating change itself won't immediately make the product better, but it gives a bit more creative freedom and opens some possibilities for better moments and more realistic/brutal matches if it makes sense. So all in all, I am at least a bit hopeful, but all of this has to come with better writing and booking. I've been apathetic towards WWE for a long time now. This piques my interest enough to check out what they might do. TV-14 won't sort out WWE's sometimes god-awful booking. And while as of the time of recording this we don't have a firm date of when this TV-14 changeover will happen or even if it will happen at all, now seemed like a good time to talk about the ultimate question. Will TV-14 fix WWE? No. That's the answer. No, it won't. I'm Chopper Peak from WrestleTalk, and this is why a TV-14 rating won't fix WWE Raw. Now before I dazzle with my opinions, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this video. Both things really help out the channel, and if you like this sort of video essay style, we've got another couple of ones coming up soon, so make sure to look out for those. Now it goes without saying that the most popular and successful period in WWE history was the Attitude Era, from the late 90s into the early 2000s. So successful was it, such an iconic part of WWE's history, that moments from that period are still being attempted to be replicated today. Legends from that era are more fondly remembered than in any other, and fans who grew up and were fans in those years still hold on to the notion that WWE will return to the glory years and wrestling will still be in the mainstream again, right guys? Right? And during this time, WWE Raw was rated TV-14. It was also the 90s and the 2000s though, which means it was time for swearing and violence and racial stereotypes and an uncomfortable treatment of women and a toxic expectation to put the business before yourself as a wrestler. Some of the knock-on effects of that which are still being felt today. Maybe the Attitude Era wasn't that great. There's no doubt, in my mind at least, that there's a correlational fallacy at play here. That being that people really liked the Attitude Era and that had a TV-14 rating. And they don't like today's product, and that doesn't have a TV-14 rating. Therefore, it must have been the TV-14 rating that made the Attitude Era great. But it's correlation, not causation. The Attitude Era was successful for a whole host of reasons, and not a single one of them was because it was rated TV-14. It was part of the cultural zeitgeist at the time. It managed to capture the world at exactly the right time. It served the audience at the time exactly what it wanted. It had two once-in-a-lifetime talents at the top of the company at the same time. Wrestlers had more creative control. There was a focus on unique characters and stories alongside in-ring prowess in a delicate balancing act rather than focusing on one over the other. Almost by chance, one of the most successful and hated villains was born and clashed with a diametrically opposed hero, which just so happened to be the guy that the crowd was the most behind. All of this stuff is undeniable and huge factors into why the Attitude Era captured and continues to resonate in the hearts of so many wrestling fans, but absolutely none of it has to do with it being TV-14. There's always been sections of WWE fans who have grown cold over WWE's programming in the past that believe there's just a simple fix that will revert WWE back to the glory days. Just turn John Cena heel, he's the problem. Just turn Roman Reigns heel, he's the problem. Just turn WWE TV-14 again. It's PG rating programming that's the problem. And it's just never that simple. Now, be realistic with me here. If WWE went back to being a TV-14 product right now, what would actually change? There might be slightly more swearing, maybe the occasional intentional bloodletting, and almost certainly some people backstage in WWE would use it as a reason to try and get the women on their roster to dress and act sexier, and they might have more sex-related storylines. And if that's what you think the product needs to be fixed, then I'm sure you'll be very happy. But for me, that is going in the opposite direction. Now, people more familiar with me might know I'm not a huge fan of deathmatch wrestling as it is, though if you disagree with me, you can buy this deathmatch t-shirt at WrestleShop.com. What? How ironic I chose to wear this t-shirt today. So the extra violence doesn't necessarily appeal to me. The swearing is a completely superficial aspect of wrestling that might initially pop a crowd, but would gather diminishing returns in a matter of weeks, and might risk upsetting those parents who brought their kids to the shows, which is the market they spent over a decade focusing on. And just treating women as sexual objects and valets rather than actual athletes is a gigantic step backwards, and not one that anyone should be wanting to make. WWE has sponsors to think about, and they mean everything to them, and you know that to be true because it's only when sponsors get involved that action actually gets taken. For example, let's look at WrestleMania 34. They had the fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, but they only changed the name of it after Snickers threatened to pull their sponsorship from the show. It didn't really matter that the fans were upset, but ooh, a sponsor's not happy about it and getting cold feet, well, now we better not do that again. And having a more violent, adult-oriented product will alienate certain sponsors away from WWE, and that's just a risk that I don't think WWE would be willing to take. Because at the end of the day, even if they flipped the product on its head, they had loads of swearing right off the bat, death matches and blood every week. Sure, the initial rush of seeing something different and new in WWE might be exciting, but those feelings would fade in a matter of months. Then you're left with WWE basically the same as it was, with all its issues. The storylines would still make no sense and would be sporadically booked at the whims of one man. It would still be shot poorly. There would still be a lack of star power and an actual showcase of any wrestler's talent, instead being confined to the WWE formula. There still wouldn't be much or any creative control for wrestlers. The scripting would still be laughable. The pacing of any show would still be jarring and detracting. There still wouldn't be any showcase of quality wrestling, and more often than not, there would be 10 minutes or less wrestling per hour. And let's not forget, Raw would still be a 3-hour show. None of that would get fixed if WWE becomes a TV-14 product. One thing that really interests me about this whole TV-14 potential news is that almost seemingly unanimously, people can agree that WWE needs fixing. Either they think that this will be the thing that fixes WWE and brings it back to its glory years, or this is the thing that isn't the fix that WWE needs, but on either side of that, you believe that WWE has its problems. And here is the underlying problem behind all of it. The fans think WWE needs fixing, WWE doesn't. Why WWE is a bad product is a hugely systemic and underlying issue underpinned by a philosophy of never changing the formula. Changing a TV rating won't change the fundamentals of the product. WWE will only be fixed with a complete overhaul of how they do things, but in their mind, it isn't broken. It doesn't need fixing. A rating change would be designed to entice those lapsed fans back without having to do any of the actual legwork to change anything significant. It's the easy route. And that's just it, isn't it? How many times have WWE promised something and then never delivered? Oh, we're the authority now, are we? No more authority figures. Cough, cough, Sonya Deville, Adam Pearce. No more automatic rematches, apart from when we want to do them. No more wild card. The brands are definitely really separate and no stars can cross over, apart from when we want to do it. They can't help themselves. And even on the rare occasions where WWE actually identify what the fans are upset about, they normally just put in temporary fixes and then go back on those changes later. WWE, and by that I really just mean Vince McMahon, is set in their ways. Since they became the only show in town, they won. They relaxed. They reaped the reward for winning the Monday Night War. Even right now with AEW, there is minimal pressure for WWE to change anything. They're posting record profits, they're getting huge sponsorship and TV deals, and that's all that matters to them. Money. And if they're making money, why would they take the risk of losing some of it when they could just not do that? They don't really care about the fans' enjoyment because they have a large, loyal, hardcore fan base that will continue to watch and attend shows regardless of the product. The Attitude Era will never come back, and that's a good thing. Look, I know people look back on the Attitude Era extremely fondly, but just trust me on this one. For the betterment of the wrestlers, for the betterment of the industry, for the betterment of the fans, we need to leave that stuff in the past. TV-14 might be more creatively liberating for WWE, but not unless they fix all of their other problems first. And that is why a TV-14 rating won't fix WWE. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment and like and subscribe to this channel. Why not check out one of our other video essays? Hey, how about this one? Roman Reigns isn't working. Look, it's one of those things that people claimed would be an easy fix to all of WWE's problems if they just turned him heel. Find out why it didn't work by watching that video. I've been Trouble Beat Quinnell from WrestleTalk. Jam that jam.